Hey guys! Alright, today I'm going to be making a pretty cool autumn tumbler. I'm excited about this one. This is the first time I've done it with these colors, so we're going to see together how this is going to turn out. I've done similar tumblers in the past, but never with these colors. Okay, so all of the glitter colors that I'm going to be using today are from a shop on Etsy called Shimmer Tree Glitter, and these, God, these colors are amazing. Okay. So these are all kind of autumn colors, and I thought that maybe you could see them a little bit better if I put them in these little medicine cups and just use them from there rather than trying to show you a bottle. But this one here is called Sandcastle. It's so pretty. It's like a very light, kind of almost pale gold color. Then I have Jackpot, which is more of a true gold. These are all metallics too. This one here is called Penny. It's kind of a copper, obviously, hence the name, a copper color. And then this one here is called Cider. This one is kind of like a mix between a copper and almost a peachy kind of color. It's really pretty. And then I've got two browns. This one here is called Cappuccino. This one has almost a red tinge to it. Not really red, I don't know, but it's a little bit more of an orangey tinge to it. And then this is Cocoa, and this is more of like that dark chocolatey color. Okay, so what I'm going to do to start off with is I'm going to do a basic swirl. I know you've seen me do swirls before, but I love doing them, so I'm going to show you this one. Once we get done with the swirl, then I'm going to do some different things that I haven't shown you before. Here we go. All right, so to start off, I am just going to coat this pretty liberally. Remember, it's a swirl. The swirls you want to coat pretty well because you have to have it swirl. This is not a situation where we're just trying to coat it. This is a situation where we're trying to make it move, and it's not going to move if you don't have enough epoxy on there. So I don't want to hear anybody whining about how I'm wasting epoxy or using too much. I have to use a little bit more. I used about half. I think it was a little over half of a medicine cup, and it's more about making sure that your medicine cup, that both of your medicine cups that you're filling with part A and part B are equal. So if you're not sure of how to do that, I can't show it in every single video that I do. I have shown it in other videos in the past. You can go back and look. I think my other swirl video, I actually show how to measure it out and mix it. Okay, so now I'm going to remove these gloves because they are covered. And I am going to start applying this glitter. Now, there is a small piece of a different colored glitter in there, and I'm not even going to worry about that because this is a swirl. So, one thing, okay. So one thing I would normally do is I would normally make sure that there's a lot less bubbles than what's on here right now. Because I'm doing the swirl, I'm not as worried about it. But if I were doing something else, I would have maybe even gone over it with the heat gun really quick beforehand and popped some of those bubbles. I also would have been a little bit more careful about it when I was stirring it. Typically you want to mix with either a metal stir or a silicone stir. You do not want to mix with wood because it does create more bubbles. And I should state that this is the color, this Rust-Oleum here, It is Summer Squash. That's the color that I put on there. You can really put any color you want on there. I didn't want white because I felt that a little bit of your paint is going to probably show through, possibly show through, I should say. You want it to be one of the colors that you're using or something similar that's going to mesh well with those colors. You don't want stark white, and I didn't want to do like a really dark color and possibly have some of my lighter colors not shine as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, I think I'm going to start off with a little bit of my sandcastle, and I'm just going to put a line of that down there. And I'm just using a little spoon. You don't even have to do that. Sometimes I use the shakers because I don't have these ones in shakers. I'm all out of shakers at the moment, and these are new. So because I don't have the shaker at the moment, this is how I'm doing it. I'm trying not to pour a whole lot on there so that I don't really have anything falling off. Okay, so now next to that, I think I'm going to do, now the dark colors, I'm not going to put a whole lot, just small little bits. I'm going to wait for it to come around again. I just do lines from the top to the bottom, just lines. Doesn't have to be in any specific pattern. If you want to do splotches, you can do splotches. I just tend to like the way that the lines help it turn out. And you see the way that I'm doing this with the spoon, I'm not even really getting anything falling off for the most part. Like, that's so little that it wouldn't even matter anyway. Usually I'm very careful about saving my glitters. Okay, let's do some cider. And see how that dark color is really kind of taking over. That's why I'm not going to put a whole lot of those dark colors in there. And then I think I'm going to do some penny right next to my cappuccino. Oh wait, I'm sorry, that was cocoa, wasn't it? There's some penny. And now I'm going to do some Jackpot. Oop, now that I wasted a little bit of glitter there. That I got a little carried away. And I will do some cappuccino. I don't want a whole lot of the cappuccino and the cocoa in there. I just want it to swirl enough to bring out my other colors. And I think I need some more cider in here. Some more cider there. And some more of the sandcastle, I think. Sandcastle is one of my favorites. It's just such a delicate gold color. I don't know if you can see that, but it's so pretty. And I'm going to do a little bit more penny in here. I'm going to do a little bit of cappuccino over here, just a tad. And what am I going to do there? I need some more Jackpot in here too. And a little bit of the cocoa. Kind of mess around with it a little bit. Okay, so now let's see where we're at. You can always add more later, and I of course will add these back to the masses. I put way more glitter than I was going to need in those cups because I knew that you were going to need to be able to see them fairly well. Okay, so now I've got my heat gun. I'm going to put it on medium, which is 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Just a minute to warm up. Okay. And now I'm just going to slowly go back and forth, back and forth. It takes a few minutes for it to get warm enough and start to move enough to start swirling. You can see it maybe starting to move a little bit. This is when you want to keep going for a few minutes, or not minutes, but for a few more seconds until you start to really see this start to form. I don't know if you can see that. I'm just going to go up here, up top. Try to get that a little bit more here and here. You know, people are always asking me, oh, I end up with this big chunk of glitter epoxy, or, you know, I think that sometimes people aren't letting it go long enough, or maybe doing it too long to where it's starting to crust and cluster up. So this is actually looking beautiful. I don't want to go any more, I don't think, because if I do, it's going to start to get too thin and sparse in places. So I'm just going to let this rotate, I think. I think it's pretty good. I think I got a pretty good ratio of the dark to light. And this is just going to keep mixing and swirling until it starts to harden and cure. So once that's done, we're going to move along to our next step. Okay, so this is good. It is done. You can see it. It looks really pretty. You can see that. I hope there's not too much glare on it. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to have to clean the inside of my rim eventually. But there's not really, it's mostly just spray paint in there. There's not really a whole lot of, there's just maybe a couple tiny little spots of epoxy in there. And I will go back and get that later. You know, I've shown you how to do that in another, there is an actual video on my page that is just about that. So the actual saying on this is going to say, leaves are falling, autumn is calling. And what I'm doing is, the leaves in autumn are actually going to be peekaboo, but the rest of the letters are not. They are going to be different colors of vinyl. So what I did is I made sure that I got this on cut out perfectly, so it's spaced perfectly so that everything fits. Because you want it to fit perfectly when you go to fit in your other words later, and that will make a little bit more sense later on when I actually go to do that. So just bear with me. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the words. I want to find where I want these words to be. Right here on the cup. I want to find out what side of the cup I really want those words to be. Actually, maybe here. Okay, and so once I figured that out, that's when I'm going to apply this one. Now this one, I need to use a bigger section of transfer tape because I need to put these on at the same time, because I need to leave this precise spacing here so that all of my lettering fits later on. So I'm going to kind of look here. Let me cut around this a little bit. Now remember, if you cut around it, you cut around it like I'm doing here. Do not cut through here. You want this spacing here. It has to stay like that. But I'm trying to do this in a way where I don't waste a whole lot of my transfer tape. And I'm also going to show you something else that I do when I apply the leaves that doesn't actually use transfer tape. So, sorry, I forgot to put my phone on silent. All right, so I am going to take this transfer tape, put it on here, and I'm just going to take the dull side of my little tool here, being careful not to touch it with the sharp point, and I am going to rub this on here so that I can now place this on my cup perfectly. Okay, let's see if that worked. And it didn't. I had a feeling it wasn't going to, but I was going to need to. I'm just going to use my fingernail here. Okay. And whoop, almost. Get that a little bit off. There we go. Okay. There is just a tiny bit of the backing that came up with it in just two little spots, and I just take my little, looks like a dental pick, but it's not, and I just pick that off really quick, just like that, and we're good. Everything else came off just perfectly, so we are now going to apply this. Now, this is not the first time I've done a peekaboo. The first peekaboo that I did was my bee tumbler, and I did have, you know, a lot of people understand what a peekaboo is and how it works. I did have a lot of people not angry, but, you know, concerned because they didn't feel that enough of the glitter was showing. This one, I feel like it's going to show a little bit more glitter than the actual bee one did, but keep in mind a few things. I used very little glitter to do this, so I know that it seems like you're wasting all of this glitter that's not even being shown, but it's really not. I used very little glitter. You saw I saved some of these so that I could show you this. I had these medicine cups, and I used barely anything out of it. The key when you're doing this is to use a high quality glitter. I am using these glitters from Shimmer Tree Glitter. They are a high quality poly glitter, which is polyester, and they are going to have a really good coverage on them. Most of the glitters that you're going to get in the store, in fact, I have not seen any so far in the store that are poly glitters. If you know of some, that's great, but most of the glitters that you're going to find in the store are just craft glitters. Some are a little bit better quality craft glitters than others, but they are not going to have the coverage or the shimmer and shine that the majority of these poly glitters that a lot of times you do have to get online, they're not going to have that same coverage and that same shimmer. So if you are using a cheaper craft glitter, yes, you are wasting a little bit more glitter. It might seem sometimes like you are spending a little bit more on the poly glitter, although it's usually priced pretty well. These here, depending on what you're doing, it's no more than $7 for 2 ounces, and some of them, a lot of them, are cheaper than that. So just keep it, and that's bigger. 7 ounces is bigger than your typical, not 7 ounces, 2 ounces is bigger than like one of these containers here. One of these containers is 1.5 ounces. So just keep that in mind. That as long as you're using a high quality glitter, it's really not wasteful. And if you're really concerned about not showing the majority, add more. Add more of your vinyl down so that more of it is showing through. It's really a matter of preference. Or, choose to do it another way. Choose to not do a peekaboo if it's really bothering you that much. Or I suppose you could do something along the lines of using like a glitter vinyl. I am not a fan of glitter vinyl. Ugh, I do not enjoy using it at all. I have before, it's not my favorite. And you need a thicker transfer tape for it, like a heavier transfer tape for it. It's just not my favorite thing. But, you know, you could do something like that so it sort of looks, I mean, it's not going to be the same. But if you're really, really that upset about a peekaboo, then don't do a peekaboo. There are tons and tons and tons of other types of cups that you can do that are just as beautiful. So just use your creativity. However, I love doing peekaboos. They're one of my favorites to do. I say that about everything, I think, but I really, these cups are like my therapy sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to find where I want to put this, and I am going to place it nicely. Remember, whatever you set this on is that, yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, whatever you set this on is you know, what's going to show through at the bottom. So set it down in the middle and then slowly work your way out, pushing this down. Make sure that you get it pretty even. It looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to keep pushing that down, make sure that it really sticks well. And now I'm going to pull this up. Now you can keep using this transfer tape for your leaves. I want to show you one thing, and I'm going to set this like on the edge of my table so as not to contaminate it with any glitter or anything so that I can keep using it. But I am going to show you something too. Another thing that I like to do, especially when I have a really detailed one, like this one here, where there's lots of little details, sometimes the transfer tape can be a little bit too sticky for these. And once you get it on the transfer tape, it doesn't really want to come off very easily, and you can rip these easily. So I'm going to show you a trick that I do in this instance. What I will do a lot of times, and I think I'm actually, okay. Okay, what I will do a lot of times is I will use Scotch tape, just your basic Scotch tape. Nothing fancy, not double-sided or anything. And I take a couple pieces. This, I mean, you can use this on bigger pieces, but I usually tend to do it on smaller, more intricate ones because it doesn't stick quite as hard as, well, it doesn't stick quite as hard as the other, as like the transfer tape. Okay. So I've done that, I put my tape on it, and now, oh, I almost forgot, I do the push down thing just like I would normally. And now I'm gonna pull this up. Pulls up a lot easier, see? And it's perfect. See how easy that was? The transfer tape would not have been that easy. And now I kind of figure out where I wanna place this on my cup. Okay, place it there on my cup. And now, just slowly, look at how easy that was. I mean, this is one of my favorite things that I learned. Well, I actually figured it out because I thought that I had transfer tape, and I was actually out one day and I was like, oh my gosh, and I had like an order and I had to get it done, and voila. I was like, hey, I've got Scotch tape. Same deal. Okay. So, perfect. There's my first one. Now I'm just going to go through And I'm going to take all of these different leaves that I have, and I'm going to kind of, I've got these maple leaves, and I'm going to kind of go in here and figure these out, figure out where I want them. Okay, so I went back and I made some adjustments. I wanted this to be up a little bit higher just because I realized that the word calling, the is calling, is going to go down here. So I felt like it was down a little bit too low and there was too much space up here. So I did go back and I redid that and adjusted that. And then I messed around for quite a while with my leaves. And I finally found a good placement. And so you can see here, like here, just the outline is going to show, but on here, the entire leaf is going to show through. So what I'm going to do next is I am going to spray paint this. I'm going to give it a couple coats of either white or cream color spray paint. It doesn't really matter. Either one will be fine. I think I'm probably going to go with a white, and then we will get in there with our alcohol inks and start making that wood grain. I should say too that I've let this sit for a little bit. I wanted to make sure that it got a pretty decent stick on it because you don't want any of your spray paint to seep underneath of these vinyl pieces. Okay. I'm gonna go outside and do my spray paint. Then I'm gonna let that dry, do another coat, and then I will be back. Okay, so here I am back. There are 2 coats of paint on this. You can see, if I show you really close, you can see where the stickers, not the stickers, but the vinyl still is. So a lot of times, like if I'm doing a design that has lots of little bits on it, like a cheetah print or something like that, for example, I would probably go in and put little dots, just one little dot on the actual vinyl piece, the part that's being pulled away, of hot glue. And then that helps you to be able to find those spots more. And I'll do that if it's really hard to see. Like on this one, I can see it really, really well. But certain colors, it's harder to see. Certain designs, there's so many that it's easy to miss. So I will do that. Sometimes I didn't in this instance. Now, before I actually pull these up, I want to do my wood grain. So what I'm going to use for that is my alcohol ink. And I'm going to start off with my caramel color. Wait, no, I'm sorry, this is butterscotch. I'm gonna start off with the butterscotch, and what I use for this is actually just like the cheapest, rattiest looking brush that you can find. I get these in like bags of like cheap paint brushes that I use for non-serious crafts where I might ruin the brush or something, although this is not going to ruin this brush. However, it is going to make this a permanent alcohol ink brush. But it's very sort of ratty. It's not a great brush, and that's what I want because I want a wood grain effect on this. So a really smooth brush is not a good choice for this particular look. And like I said, just go to like Walmart or someplace, dollar store, someplace like that, and get something that looks really cheap and rough like that. Now, to do this wood grain, I am just going to take, I kind of hold this down like this, and from the top I make a couple of lines like that, and then I move this down. Just like so. Okay, now it doesn't look like much yet, but it will. Now I go next to it, make a couple more lines, kind of overlap it a little bit, and it is going, now I'm going to start down here. I should probably do this a little bit closer so you can see. Now, you see when we're going in and sort of overlapping, it makes that kind of dark line. We want to keep that. Don't get rid of that. That's a good look. See, I'm letting that kind of drip a little bit, and then I'm going to go in and just lightly brush that out. See, it makes it look more like a wood grain that way. So I'm just going to keep going down like this. Like such. See what I'm doing there? Let's see if I can do this in front of the camera a little bit better. See how that's starting to look? Okay, like such. And I think I might actually go in after this and do maybe make it a little darker. So that's looking really good there. And now I'm going to start, there's like this part, I'm going to start up in here to give it that wood grain effect. Like such. Just like that there. And now I'm going to go in here and do it again. Like so. I'm just going to go around this whole thing. Perfect. Okay. Now I've got this big open space. I kind of want to get in there with something here and make it look a little more like actual wood. See how that's looking? Hard kind of doing this at the right angle and showing you. I'm doing my best, guys, but it makes it really hard for me to really be able to see it and control it. So now I'm going to go in this area here. Don't like how that kind of looked like a big water blob. Okay. Okay. And so you see, I don't know if you can see that really well, but if I were using a really smooth brush, you wouldn't get, gosh, I hope that you can see that. You wouldn't get all of those little grains in there. It's really hard to see. You know what I need? Okay, So I shifted things around a little bit because I was getting a really bad shadow there. So let's keep going now. I'm going to start down here. Just realizing that I forgot to put my paper down. So I'm just spattering this all over my table. So I will have to give this thing a good scrub down later. But that's okay. This is really just a matter of preference, however grainy you want your wood or don't want your wood. If you want it smoother than this, then make it smoother than this. I like to have a lot of this distinction in here, making it look like it's actual wood. I think it helps to make it look like it's actual wood. Your preference may be different. And that is perfectly wonderful. You can make knots in the wood too. Not sure if I'm going to do that on this one. If I choose not to, then I will do another wood grain video in the future to kind of show you how to do that. But it's basically just kind of making one circle into another circle into another circle, sort of. I guess that's the easy way to describe it anyway. Just really doing this table wonders today. Okay, so now I'm pretty covered. So now I'm going to take the time and go back and fix those areas that I don't really like this, for instance. I don't like this huge thing here, so I'm just going to go kind of put a line there to kind of break that up and then soften it. And I'm just going to kind of do that around the cup in any places that I'm not thrilled with, or that I feel like I need to break it up. Like in here, I'm just gonna kind of put a line like that and then lightly go over it like that. Perfect. Still haven't decided if I'm gonna go over this with a darker color or not. I'm not positive. I think I might like it. But now we've got to do the bottom because I've just been letting everything kind of flow on the bottom. And got a little bristle from my cheap brush. Okay, so for the bottom, I kind of go across and do my I just kind of do like a swoop there. You can do a knot there, you can do whatever you want, but it's the bottom. I'm not as worried about it. Some of you may even put a logo down there, but what you really want to be careful of is what it's doing to the edge of your actual cup, because that's what's most important. So just make sure that it's not clumping around the edge and making it look weird there. Oh, here I have like a little spot. I don't know if you can see that. Like a little bubble looking spot. I'm gonna get rid of that. And I just go through, and I mean, this is all a matter of preference. So some of you may be watching this going, "Whoa, stop, I like it how it is," or "Ooh, I don't like that at all." It's all up to you. Just go in and do what you feel looks best for you. Okay. Okay, so I think I'm actually gonna make this a little bit darker. I think I'm gonna use the caramel to kind of go over it a little bit and make it a little bit darker than what it is. All right, so I'm done with that second coat. There we go. Now, I've already spray painted this and let it dry, and then I've put this alcohol ink on here. So I do have to let the alcohol ink sit for at least 24 hours before I do my coat of epoxy, because you really want to make sure that it dries. Alcohol ink has a tendency to change color when you're epoxying it. It does typically turn back, but you want to make sure that it's completely dry first. So what I'm gonna do right now though, because I don't want the paint and the alcohol ink to dry over my vinyl, I'm gonna start peeling the vinyl off now. Only because, I mean, I've let it dry a little bit, but I really don't want it to be impossible to come off later. Shoot. Be very careful that you don't do what I just did and scratch the whole thing. Thankfully, the majority of what I scratched is coming up anyway, but it would not be the first time that I had to touch up what I'm doing. Oh, crud. There I went at it again. see the majority of that pulled up. I've got a tiny bit that I am going to have to touch up. But that's par for the course. Okay. All right, so this is how I take care of this. This is done. Not done, but I've peeled everything. It's looking really awesome, I think. It'll look really cool once I get it done. But you can see, I hope you can see anyway, that there are some spots that need to be touched up. Just some spots where the white kind of seeped under a little bit, not a whole lot. I just take, again, a tiny little brush, just like this one here. It came in the same, you know, really cheap pack that this came in probably. I always keep, oh, I've got some epoxy stuck to, or not epoxy, some vinyl stuck to my nail. I always keep those around, and anywhere where I sort of messed it up or where it didn't get on, like the white seeped under, I just kind of paint it there. I'm really careful not to get it on the glitter because you can tell once you move on to the next step, you will be able to see that. So I just try and keep it going with the grain. It's mostly in these little veins in here, which that's really easy to just use this tiny little brush and go back in here and paint over the grains of the leaf really quick, like that. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue going through and doing that. And just like I said, being very careful not to get the glitter. I mean, you might get it a little bit here and there, but you want to be careful, and you don't want a whole lot of tiny itty bitty little brush strokes around there. So try and, you know, if you find that you're getting a lot of like little brush strokes because you're going like that, use the edge and kind of smooth it out, make it a little bit bigger. All right, so I am good to go. Got my leaves in autumn. I will fit the others in later. I've got all of my leaves here, and I'm going to let this sit for at least 24 hours. This, even though it feels dry, I can touch it. Keep drying it. Let this alcohol ink sit, because like I said, we have issues with the color changing and everything. Even if you are using like a clear coat, sometimes that itself will change the color. So we've got to be really careful with this. We really like this color and we don't want it changing a whole lot. All right, I will see you in at least 24 hours. Okay, so here I am. What I did basically is, after this sat for 24 hours, and I know that some people do this after like an hour or whatever. I've been burned too many times on these things, so I'm very, very careful with these wood grains. I wait a full 24 hours before I do anything. I just let it sit and dry. And then I've put a very light coat of the Krylon clear gloss. A lot of times I use semi-gloss. This just happened to be what I grabbed this time. I put a very light coat of that on it. Let that dry and put another light coat on top of it. You do not at any point in time want to have that spray paint sopping onto this, or you're going to see it in your ink. Even though it sat all night long, or, you know, well, this was actually over 24 hours. Even though it sat all of that time, it is going to make a huge difference. Okay, so I also went through, obviously this part here is the part that is showing through, is part of the stuff that's showing through the glitter. I also went through then and put in my falling and my calling. And I just cut those words out. Once I had the leaves and the autumn where they needed to be, it was really easy for me to place the falling and place the calling. And then I did those in like a brushed metal with some of my Arteza vinyl. And then I used this textured brown. It's kind of hard to see because it's so little, but for the R and the is, I used a textured brown vinyl that I believe was Cricut. Okay. And now I'm going to turn this on actually so you can kind of see what it's looking like. Might want to plug it in first. All right. All right, so I turned that on so you could kind of see what it's doing all the way around. And now I'm hoping, usually what happens is this epoxy will help it. Sorry, this is taking me a little bit longer to mix up my epoxy today because I've got it in one of these big plastic cups instead of one of my silicone cups because I'm not sure where they are right now. But again, I'm using a silicone brush to mix this so that I'm not getting too many bubbles in it. I show you in some of my other videos how to go about mixing that epoxy a little bit better. Okay, make sure I get around the edges. Okay, but so now I'm going to put, just gonna lay this here. Okay, because the beauty of the silicone brush is that once it dries, it just pops right off. So I'm just going to set that there for right now. So what I'm going to do is when I start applying this, it's going to start making some of this glitter pop again and really shine well. Keep in mind, some people do this without putting that clear coat on it. I have not had the best luck with that. But if you find that that works for you, then that's great. I do know people that do that. They just let the ink sit for the 24 hours and they put the epoxy right on. I'm just too scared to do that. So I always do a gloss or a semi-gloss clear coat of some sort. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this. It's going up and down. Oh, I'm really liking where this is going. It's really popping. I'm glad that I was a little nervous there. I wasn't really liking where it was going, but I have that a lot of times with my cups where I just am like, I don't know, maybe I should scrap it, and then I keep going, and I'm usually glad that I did. So I am very happy with what I did here. Oh, that glitter is really popping now. Now I've got to get the bottom here. That's looking beautiful, and it's really making that wood grain pop too. I love it. All right, let me see if there's any place that is looking like it needs a little bit more. I've only got a tiny bit left in there. So I'm just going to go up and down here. And now I'm going to hit it with the heat gun. And, uh-oh! Well, let me fix that. That was a bummer. Okay. But so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hit this with the medium setting, which is 800 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to let that heat up. And now I'm going to pop those bubbles. I just go back and forth. Some people do prefer to do this with a torch. I don't. It's easy to burn with a torch. I feel like it's easier to make sure that you're not getting too hot when you've got this, rather than an open flame. It's more regulated. Okay. And I just want to really get into these words here. Okay, I think we're pretty good. All right, so I'm gonna let this go now. I'm gonna see if I can get that a little bit, not further away, a little closer there for you to see as it goes around. There you go. There's a better look at it. All right, so I'm just gonna let this rotate until it hardens, and then it's got to cure for 72 hours and it'll be good to go. Hopefully. I mean, I doubt that this would be something that would need another coat. Obviously then I'll have to clean it up. I'll have to clean the rim and get any, there's not a whole lot, just a very little bit of epoxy that got into the rim there. And I'll clean that up and then make sure that there's no spray paint left along the rim or anything, and we'll be good to go. Thank you for joining me again, and I really appreciate all of your wonderful comments. Please keep them coming. I love hearing from you. I love hearing your ideas and things that you want to try, or things that you were inspired by. That's why I'm here. I am here to show you some different techniques, and I expect you to take it and run with it. You can do my design or you can create your own, and just have fun. So thank you. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please like and subscribe and ring that bell so you can get my notifications. Have a great night.